What am I even talking about? My gosh.
What's up, guys? Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Gianni Martin and I'm a creative based in Birmingham, Alabama. This channel pretty much serves as like a digital diary, a documentary for my life. So on the channel, I talk about all things photo, travel, lifestyle, what I got going on, my current thoughts, current activities, new hobbies, pretty much anything that I'm doing, I talk about on the channel. So thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Thank you for constantly showing love and support. If you're new here, I want to say welcome, and hopefully I either say or do something today that makes you want to stick around and join the family. Okay, without further ado, I want to pretty much be a contrarian to the photographers that exist on YouTube. I feel like it is so customary for everybody to talk about tips about photography, what equipment they're using right now, new things that are coming out that they're looking forward to, ways to edit this, tips on shooting this. I am not trying to do any of that today. I want to talk about the things that I don't like about being a photographer. And I know that that's like not customary for anything that you love doing, is to talk about things that you hate about it. But this is a video that I've kind of been wanting to make for a second. And I think her name is Jessica Kobasi. She made a video recently about that. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to add to this discourse, because there are a few things that I don't want to say that they are putting me off in being a photographer and they're going to force me into quitting or like making me not interested anymore. But I do think that there should be some dialogue around like things that we don't like about what we do. And that's just, you know, it is what it is. So without further ado, I have created a short list of 4 things that I do not like about photography. Point number 1, and this truly might be my biggest pet peeve when it comes to photography, is talking about equipment, or more specifically, being asked about equipment by other photographers, especially while you're in the middle of shooting or working or whatever it is that you're doing. I actually had to put the microphone down so that I could like actually get into it. So some of you may or may not know, I went to school for fine art, and my concentration was photo and new media. And so in new media, we did things like 3D printing, laser etching, like all of that type of stuff. But of course, like I said, my first concentration was photography. So in my photo classes, of course, there are various students. We're all in the same class, but you know, everyone has different backgrounds in terms of like how they've gotten into photo. And so of course, that just creates this conglomerate of just different people who are in photography under one roof, right? And so as a student, I always thought that it would be interesting when we do critiques, the students that had like the better gear would always get the best feedback from the professor. I mean, and it's just, it is what it is. And so fast forwarding to now, I feel like anytime someone's inquiring about your equipment or wondering about your gear, in their minds, they're like ranking you in like your skill set, or like your, you know, like your value as a photographer, because you're utilizing the newest Sony XT5 million, you know. And I don't know, again, that might just be a me thing, but so I always hate when people will see you out working and they're like, oh, what you shooting with? And let me say, I do understand that for a lot of people, that's like an entry point for conversation. Like a lot of photographers are able to utilize the conversation about what you're shooting with as a way to say, oh, I'm a photographer too. Let's talk about how we shoot and what we shoot with, and oh, what lens. I get that, but also at the same time, like I don't want to talk about that. I personally don't like talking about that. And I hate when people ask me about that, especially while I'm in the middle of shooting, because I'm like, last thing about this, like I'll just take this back to, this was actually on one of the recent photo walks that I did like a couple of months ago. So I was shooting with my Fujifilm X-T20, which in a couple of videos before, I think I talked about how I was looking for a camera that was aside from my work camera, which is my Sony, that I could just kind of use casually, just doing photo walks, like freely walking around, but not using my cell phone, like actually having a dedicated camera for just creative shooting, right? And a guy stopped me, of course, as I'm shooting, and he's like, "What are you shooting with?" And I pretty much just responded, and I was just like, "A Fujifilm X-T20. Boom, that's it. And then the guy was like, "Oh, well, I shoot with a Sony A7R III. You should definitely look at Sony." Meanwhile, I'm actually recording this video on a Sony A7R IV. So, I mean, I could have easily been like, well, as a matter of fact, I have a Sony A7R IV. But to me, it didn't even matter because I'm like, what was the benefit of that moment? Nothing. And I don't know why, but that irked me so bad. I wasn't really rude to him or anything. He went on to ask me about the lens that I had on my Fujifilm, which was the Pocket Dispo. I talked about that a couple of videos earlier too. But that initial question of like, not only what are you shooting with, but then followed up with like, oh, you need to look into this. I was like, sir, just let me go on my photo walk, please. Like, I'm okay. Okay, so point number 2 kind of piggybacks off of point number 1 just a little bit. But point number 2 is having or like feeling compelled to keep up with the latest equipment. Again, when you're looking laterally and you see that everyone's always buying or being concerned with like the newest version of a camera, the latest lens that the brands are coming up with, the newest like accessories to the camera, it just becomes too much. And I feel like there's always something that you should be concerned with purchasing to be a current great photographer, right? It's really giving capitalism. At the end of the day, that's what it's giving, capitalism. But I find that to be so discouraging to always have to be concerned with like purchasing something. For like one instance, right? I'm using my GoPro to vlog. So I love the GoPro. I feel like it's perfect for travel. Obviously, it can kind of bang around without being broken easily. It's compact. I can go underwater, so I can do things like, you know, the pool shots that I've done in my recent vlog. It just is perfect for me in terms of like, you know, vlogging. I had a friend recently who was like, "Oh, you absolutely need to get the DJI Pocket camera." And I'm like, why? I have a GoPro. Like, I have a GoPro. I don't have to get the DJI camera. Like, I love that they have that. I think it's a great product, but I don't need to purchase it because I have something that achieves that same thing for me currently. Like, I don't need to buy something else. So I just feel like there's always this expectation to be purchasing and to be concerned with the latest product. Like, even with my Sony, like I mean, I'm not going to say that I just pinched every penny that I ever owned to just save up for the camera, but I mean, this camera was pretty expensive as well as the lens that I have on it. Obviously, brands are going to be concerned with coming up with new things over time, but I feel like at the rate that they upgrade these and come out with new bodies and like new features and stuff like that, like you're always going to be behind. Like you're just never going to have it. You're never gonna have it. I don't need anything else. I don't need another lens. I don't need anything else. I don't need it. Okay, point number 3. Can we please talk about being photographers, or you know what, actually just artists in general, in the content creation era of social media? I find it to be very, very detrimental to artistry, if you will, to have to always exist and perform on social media, essentially. And don't get me wrong, I will say that creating art, especially if it's something that you do for yourself and not really for the validation of others, perfectly fine. Like, you don't even have to have social media, right? Like, you truly don't have to have social media. But I think the thing, especially if you're doing this professionally and you're looking to continue getting work, you always have to be performing on social media in the ways that these platforms require you to, in order for your work to get noticed and for it to, I mean, essentially do well, right? Now on Instagram, which Instagram started as just a photo-based app, now there is the pressure to do reels and TikToks and stuff. And so granted, personally, I really like doing a lot of different things. So it doesn't hurt me as much, but I find having to take my work and make it into a TikTok or make it into a reel or just whatever to be received, I find that just so frustrating. And it makes me not even want to post it at all. I find myself posting and it not even be viewed because Instagram's not pushing the work. Like, they're like, oh, this isn't a reel. Next. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, I've spent so much time on this concept and the execution and the editing, blah, blah, blah. People aren't even seeing it because Instagram is pushing reels and I am not formatting my work into a reel. And so therefore it's not even being viewed. Therefore, my engagement isn't doing that well in terms of work. I don't know. It's a lot. I do see social media as kind of being the modern day portfolio. I do see a lot of people actually still do have websites. I personally still have a website that serves as my portfolio, but for a lot of people, social media is their portfolio right now. And I just find it a little jarring that we have to always kind of be bending to the rules of social media, and that kind of informs the type of work that we produce because we're trying to appeal to social media. I just hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I'm kind of over it. And okay. Oh my gosh, this light is so hot. Oh, it's hot. Okay, so we made it to my last point, and this actually is probably the most important point because this is what really made me kind of want to make this video in the first place. So I'm gonna set this down because we're really about to kind of talk. I have been doing commercial photography as a contracted individual with a particular company for 7 years. I started in the middle of 2017, and I actually cut my contract with this particular company at the beginning of the year. So I'm no longer shooting with them, but I worked with them for practically 7 years. So I found that the creativity that I discovered pretty early on and that I really, really worked hard on, like, really nurturing while I was in school for fine art, had started to become drained by being a commercial photographer. I don't know if this is really a thing because I don't have too many conversations with other people that did exactly what I did in terms of like shooting product photo pretty much daily in a very, very similar, it wasn't the exact same type of way, but I'll just say that the parameters were very, very tight on how things needed to be shot. The product needed to be shown a certain type of way. Like there was a kind of checklist of how product needed to be viewed. I feel like it really started to stifle the way that I looked at photography. Month after month or year after year really of me doing the same thing kind of started to channel my mind into thinking a very, very specific way when it came to photography. And I hate that. Like, I truly feel like that is probably one of my only regrets in terms of my professional career in regards to doing commercial work. I think that I really started to lose my like creative mind in doing that type of work. And I am really making strides toward like trying to recover it now. That's kind of why I wanted to purchase the Fujifilm camera. I'm actually weak because this actually goes back to what I was saying about equipment and like needing to buy things. This is exactly what I was talking about, capitalism. I started to associate my Sony camera with a very particular style of photography that I did not want to be attached to. And I just felt like I needed to have another item that was completely dissociated from that I could utilize for something else. And so that again is why I purchased the Fujifilm camera. I wanted to do things that were a little more creatively free, non-restricted, very spontaneous type of shooting, really like run and gun, if I see it, catch it type of thing. I mean, that's what the Fujifilm camera became for me, was the opportunity to kind of express my like raw creativity with something that was not my work camera. So really just being completely honest, that point has been one of the biggest things that's been bothering me, honestly, since I've cut my contract with that company, like within the past 6 months. I've honestly been making strides to just recover my creative thought and really find ways that I can like dig back into the earlier version of myself as a photographer. I don't really think that I did a good job in the midst of me having, work to do, of blending in personal work and, like passion projects and stuff. Like anytime I picked up a camera was really just for work. To be completely honest. So now I'm trying to get back to that, and that's kind of where, like I said, that's where my mind has been like these past 6 months. I think I've been doing a good job at it, but I've spent the last 7 years drilling this one mentality into my head. So like, I don't want to say that I want to take the same amount of time to get out of that, but I do understand like it's not going to be an overnight thing. So yeah, those are my 4 photography icks of 2024, I guess. If you agree with any of those, or if you have opposing thoughts to any of those, definitely let me know in the comments. I would love to start some conversation around this and kind of know what some of you guys' icks are, or like if there are some things that you think about what I said that could probably give me a little bit of insight as to why I think that way or your experience with it. Please comment below. And like I said before, thank you guys so much for showing support and just even making it to the end of this video. Thank you very much. I am so grateful for all of you, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.